Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Bill Nye, the Science Guy.
Wow, this is fantastic. Thank you.
I'll hold it for you.
Oh, good. Thank you. Are there any questions on what we've covered so far? I just want to start by saying something that my parents said to me countless times. Common sense is really not that common. Don't count on it. And I think if any of you have met certain people, you have a sense of what I mean. But the fundamental idea, everybody, what we have to deal with now, I meet a lot of people that wring their hands, and I understand about these kids today. My understanding is that Socrates was very concerned about the children that he was around. And that was some time ago. Kids are inherently different from adults, especially when they're young. Many of us, of course, look forward to growing up, but that's a ways off. The big deal, everybody, the fundamental idea I'd like you to embrace in all the work we do with children, trying to, dare I say it, change the world, is to acknowledge that there's just much more information available than there used to be, but that information is of much lower quality. But with that said, in general, if somebody is skilled at using the internet, that all the kids are onto, that electric internet thing, you can get higher quality information more reliably if you're trained to do it or you train yourself to do it. If you go looking up, for example, the atomic number of rubidium, you're going to find that. Yes. Anyone? You can look it up. It's right next to strontium. Kids today. And so, but if you go looking up who started the Civil War, you'll get more than one answer. And so what we need to do is get our kids, well, get everyone in society to deal with this higher volume of information of lower quality. But I claim that we can, and it's an exciting time. What we want in my part of it, my part of the world, I'm an engineer. Well, I'm human, but I'm an engineer. And what we want is to use, to the extent possible, technical solutions to do three things for everybody on Earth, everyone on Earth. We want everybody to have clean water. We want everybody to have access to what I call reliable electricity. This is to say electricity anytime you want it in any reasonable quantity that you need. And then we want everyone in the world to have access to information at any time, and this would be called the internet. Now, along that line, I know we all talk about technology, and technology does this and technology does that. But I remind you that technology comes from people, many of whom, troubling as it may seem, are engineers. I know. Because you've met them at parties and you're not sure. Yeah. But people develop these applications and these transistor logic circuits because it allows us to share information. And so what I believe we can do is use the same sort of technology that we use to enable one person, enable a device to be handed from one mobile cell to another. We can use that same technique with assets in space, satellites, to provide the internet to everyone in the world. And this is something that's going to require international cooperation, and it's going to require some big picture thinking, but I think it's possible. And when we watch all the trouble that can come from sharing information, sharing fistfights, and certain language that we might not all want our kids to have right away, keep in mind what an exciting time this is. What an amazing time this is. You can get the answer to almost any question in the palm of your hand. What an extraordinary time it is. When I was a kid, Oh, by the way, for those of you of a certain age, I started engineering school with a slide rule. And yeah, for you oohs, and then most of you go like this. So if you ever see, I just tell you, if you ever see the old footage of the rockets, the early rockets taking off, and then they start to have trouble, they shake, and then they fall over. That's because we had slide rules. Yes, yeah, people, my slide rule could do logarithms, could do natural logarithms, sines, tangents, cosines. On a slide rule, everybody, this is a calculating machine we were all trained to use. You cannot add or subtract. Oh, thanks, Uncle Bill. Cool. But now, any of that information is available to you in the palm of your hand. And so, when I was young, nobody really knew what Pluto was. People had a pretty good idea. We called it a planet and so on. But we've made discoveries. People have seen pictures of Pluto. Right now, there's a debate going on in the scientific community, planetary science community, about how careful you have to be landing on Mars. Oh yeah, landing on Mars. You know, the way we do, land on Mars. If you said that to my grandfather, what? Landing on Mars? And so how careful you have to be, because it's very reasonable that there's something alive on Mars, or there once was. And people in high school right now, people in elementary school right now, are going to be alive when that discovery is made. Either some sort of fossilized bacterial, microbial Martian mat of ancient Martian microbes, or stranger enough, more strange, but not extraordinary. How about extraordinary but not crazy? Is something still alive on Mars? And if we discover that in our lifetime, it will change the world. It will change the way everybody feels about his or her place in the cosmos. I'm not saying that we're going to just everybody start driving on the left in the U.S. That's won't be like that. It will be profound, though, and it's very reasonable that it will happen in young people's lifetime, and of course, I hope, in my lifetime. Now, as you may know, I took one class from a very famous astronomer named Carl Sagan, and I was able to do that through an extraordinary clerical error in the admissions department at Cornell. They just screwed up, and there I was. And he advocated for being very careful when exploring other worlds, because we don't know what might happen if we do that. But along that line, he started the Planetary Society, which is an organization to engage people around the world in the adventure and the science of space exploration. And then, as you may know, I joined the Planetary Society back in 1980. And it was, I did that, I see the young people here. So they sent a letter. I don't know if you've seen this. It's a way you can store information outside of your body. I don't know if you've seen it. It's like a phone. No, but anyway, the old people, they'll show you. It was successful. You know, it was kind of permanent, but you couldn't make the text bigger or anything. So I joined, and now I'm the CEO of the Planetary Society. Thank you. Yes, thank you. And I took the job because space exploration is inherently optimistic. Space exploration brings out the best in us. And what I like to say, our mission is to empower citizens of the world to know the cosmos and our place within it. That's straightforward. No, but we create, educate, and advocate. And this organization rates, educate, and advocates. Coincidence? Perhaps. But I just want to mention one detail to the people who work at Common Sense. The problem I think we have to solve, which will address our problems with our elections and the people running for office and the job you have to do once you are elected. I think the fundamental problem that we've accidentally allowed to happen is gerrymandering, where we've allowed these electoral districts to be so specialized that once a person is elected there, it's very hard for him not, or her not to get reelected. But nevertheless, he or she has to work continually to raise money. And I think when we advocate, and the planetary side, we do some advocacy also, we have to keep that in mind, that the problem isn't just social media and people sharing information. The problem is actually deep within our system, but it's solvable. We have to be optimistic about the future. So with that said, thank you all very much for this award. This is really special. I wanted to work on the Science Guy show. I wanted to create the Science Guy and have the Science Guy show years ago because I was concerned about the future. I felt that the engineering managers that I was working for had lost their vision. They were caught up in making a profit. They were very afraid of the competition without thinking in a big picture way. And they, from my era, just to shock you, we created the Ford Pinto, the Chevy Vega. We derailed the effort to embrace the metric system. And we, ha 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 ha, ha ha ha. Yeah, we're the last country, everybody. You want to sell something, you better know what temperature it is. 22 is pretty comfortable. What? Yeah, it's a long story. Oh, incidentally, Anders, this is not scripted. Anders Celsius was an astronomer, just by the way. He was into space, the guy who invented the metric thermal temperature scale. But keep in mind that since then, we have these extraordinary companies that are making these extraordinary technologies that allow us to share information like that. But in order for that to be brought to everyone in the world, we need to have reliable electricity. People need to be largely disease-free, and that requires clean water. And to democratize government and education, and empower the citizens of the world, especially girls and women. But half the people are girls and women, so let's have half the scientists and engineers be girls and women, crying out loud. And in order to do that, we have to have an optimistic view of the future. We have to empower people, and we have to provide clean water, reliable electricity, and the internet to everyone. Thank you so much for this. This is really nice. Thank you.